I want to take the time to talk about the new terastallizing mechanic and something that has widely, well, been talked about, but is a bit scuffed in like a lot of the conversations around, and that is the ability to Terra type for a type change. A lot of the conversation around terastallizing has been, and I think rightly so, that generally you should Terra type your stab move, which was like say Garchomp, for example. You're going to want to Terra type your Garchomp into a ground typing, but I think this mechanic also has some niche cases where it can actually potentially use its Terra typing in a way that is interesting, that doesn't involve this being a stab type move. And of course, with the Pokemon we're going to be talking about today, they are only going to be Pokemon that have been confirmed in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet through official means. We have this whole list from Cerebi that we'll be gathering Pokemon from as well. Yeah, to get right onto it, the first Pokemon I wanted to talk about was Gyarados. And this one probably goes off with no surprise, because Gyarados is a Pokemon that packs like powerful Earthquake, and you can change into the ground typing, you can change into the grass typing to give you electric resist, and notably grass as well, giving you 120 base power Whip with stab is a use case I think is like fundamentally really interesting. And then also having Earthquake, a very powerful ground stab as well. I think a lot of how you want to use alternative Terra typing involves Pokemon that already have very good stab. And this is just a very easy example of this. And this happens to help with Gyarados' defensive typing. Of course, Gyarados being 4 times weak to electric, changing to ground giving you an immunity to it, and then changing you to grass giving you a resist. Both of which help Gyarados really this like pack a punch in a way that is not usually expected of it. Then on for like the second Pokemon I wanted to talk about, it's Arcanine. Which Arcanine has a concept I actually think is like pretty interesting. Like Arcanine I think will typically be a supportive Pokemon in this format. So I don't think we're going to see like Terra type Arcanine be at the forefront in a lot of like competitive battles. But if you were to Terra type Arcanine, I do actually think that you would want to Terra type it away from fire typing, because it's not really the most offensive Pokemon generally. And of course you could make it with this like Terra Fire to make it into that offensive Pokemon, but I think you actually get more value out of turning it normal for extreme speed. And let me explain. Extreme speed, of course, is just a ridiculously most powerful stab move in the game. You would lose your Arcanine's weaknesses of water and ground and rock for that of fighting, which frankly tends to be a bit less common in general. So this having the ability to change the E-Speed, and also E-Speed, this allows you to clean up Pokemon better. So the ability to Terra normal in like late game and clean up a Pokemon like a lot sooner than you normally would with E-Speed is something that I find very valuable. And the other one is like this electric. Electric, of course, you're still going to be weak to ground, but you lose the water weakness and you're able to hit water types super effectively. I think this is an efficient way to make Arcanine this like kind of take a surprise on a lot of bulky water types that think, okay, even if the Arcanine has Wild Charge, it's not going to do anything to me anyways. But then with the ability to Terra Electric, also an Arcanine actually does have that ability to do that extra damage that normally wouldn't happen into bulky waters. And then other than Arcanine, this is probably the most extreme case I want to talk about of Terra typing. I think Dragonite should only Terra type into the normal typing. Because notably, you could say, oh, Dragonite, maybe you want to Terra into the dragon typing, right? But we have already confirmed that there is a lot of very good dragon typings that you could already use Terra Dragon Draco Meteor on. Like there's Hydreigon, there's Salamence. So the use case of having Dragonite Terra into a dragon type is already like a lot less. And then going from there, actually, Dragonite is a physical attacker. And Dragon Claw is not nearly as powerful as a Draco Meteor, right? Because you only get 80 base power compared to like a 130 base power. So from that, I started looking through like Dragonite's movesets. I was like, okay, Waterfall's pretty interesting. Super Power, superpower to fighting might be cool, so you can just hit steel types. But there's one part of Dragonite that makes it very notable, and that is extreme speed. And with extreme speed and normal typing and its base 134 attack stat, Dragonite's E-speed actually is stronger than regular Arceus's extreme speed with the base 120 attack stat. So effectively, Dragonite will be OHKOing Pokemon with its extreme speed. And if you pack that in with like a choice band, that is a very potent threat that can easily just clean up Pokemon in endgames and really just like take over in a like surprising fashion as well. And not to mention also losing the ×4 ice weakness for that of this regular fighting weakness is pretty beneficial for Dragonite. And not being able to be intimidated or flinched makes this E-speed like very hard to get through. And Dragonite that's an overall like really potent threat for this metagame. And then from there, this is more I want to talk about a concept, right? Because we've already seen like Terra Blast in the trailer. We don't know its base power yet, but I wanted to talk about this fast electric types. And right now, Jolteon is just like the fastest electric type in Scarlet and Violet that we know of. We haven't really got a good electric type reveal yet. That's just like fast. Like our electric types that we know of are Magnezone and like Pincurchin. Both of which are like really slow electric types. Or already have like a weakness that they share with the ice typing. So I didn't feel like that was like the best use case for it. Yeah, there's Rotom forms as well that could take use of this. With good old Terra Ice. But basically, the old use case for hidden power tends to be on electric types because they don't have many other stab moves, right? So I think that's going to stay true with Terra Blast, where we get a lot of electric type Pokemon that end up deciding, hey, we lost hidden power. Terra Blast is the next best thing we can do to get rid of Garchomp's, Landorus, and I think that's probably going to be the typing they generally choose, or the sticking to electric. And then on our final one is like a concept that I think is like probably the final way to use defensive Terra typing. And that is for Wincon Pokemon, right? Because Wincon Pokemon, like would say Ferrothorn, which is in the game, but Corviknight, which is confirmed, has access to like Body Press, Iron Defense, and Roost, giving it a lot of recovery, so late game it can turn into like this unbreakable Pokemon. And of course, Terra Fighting would allow you to turn into a fighting type, giving your Body Press stab and more immediate presence, a trait that is only unique to Como, currently in competitive Pokemon. But Corviknight has a bit of an interesting way of using it as well, because like, if the Corviknight does not decide to Terra, all the types that hit fighting super effectively, your Psychics, your Fairy type moves, your Flying type moves, are all moves that Corviknight resist. And this is really important to make Corviknight like a viable Terra defensive fighting type, because it just allows Corviknight to play this like game of when choosing whom can be the threat to take it out in endgame. Because a lot of how you set up Wincon Pokemon involves Pokemon that you can kind of this way KO, right? You need to have a Pokemon that can KO the opposing Wincon Pokemon. Like, if there's a Ferrothorn on your opponent's team, you want to keep a Fire-type Pokemon in order to OHKO that Ferrothorn and get rid of it. But if that Pokemon's able to just Terra-type and change to a different type, and all of a sudden you don't have the answer to break the defensive threat that is just chilling on you, then you're going to lose the game. You're going to lose the game to that Pokemon. And Corviknight's an easy example of a Pokemon that can do that. Which, of course, there are other Iron Defense Pokemon in our Scarlet and Violet reveal already. Like Slowbro being a notable one. But Slowbro has some like similar utility in that it has Iron Defense, Body Press. But this one's more of like a Trick Room user. So it works a bit differently to that of Corviknight. But this is also another Pokemon that could use this kind of strat of like changing to fighting. All of a sudden you're not as weak to that anymore. Though for this one, it's a bit weirder because like changing the fighting type on a Pokemon that's like weak to Ghost already isn't too great, because like I think in front of a Slowbro you're gonna want to have like a Ghost type and let's try to go for an Oko anyways. So it's a little less valuable than that of like a Corviknight for defensive synergy. And then like the final Pokemon I want to talk about is a Pokemon that's just not in the game, but to give you like this an easy example of the Pokemon you kind of may want to think about if it ever comes out for this Scarlet and Violet, if it comes for DLC, and that is Cortana. With Cortana, it's kind of like the extreme end of where I think like alternative Terra typings is like really good. And that's Pokemon with quad weaknesses that have absurdly high stats. And Cortana having a base 181 attack, meaning it can also like take very good advantage of a move like, let's say, Sacred Sword, right? Is base 90, you get 181 attack, and then you turn your Cortana to a fighting type. So it can just go for like KOs on stuff like Incineroar that would normally just like kind of be very annoying for Cortana at this Terra Fightings. Who cares about that Incineroar anymore? Who cares about, let's say, like a Heatran that would normally completely ruin Cortana's day? This Terra Fighting, Heatran's not much of a threat anymore. Of course, this Pokemon is not confirmed for Scarlet and Violet yet, but this is the Pokemon that really made me want to like talk about this concept. So I just wanted to mention it. If Cortana is ever revealed, you gotta know. And that's for the VGC 2017 fans out there. And yeah, that'll be all for like this video. If you want any more like theory content of like mechanics and all that stuff, let me know in the comments. I have like a lot more. We'll probably do a lot more of these kind of videos when Scarlet and Violet come out and we get like more direct confirmation on how mechanics work. But for now, this is like as best as we can do, right? And yeah, thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Thank you.